Good evening, everybody, and welcome once again to Story Hour. I'm your host, Daniel Marcus. My unparalleled co-host is Laura Blackwell, and we've been doing this for 2.5 years or so at this point, week in, week out, just trying to bring you good work. And I hope that you're all healthy and taking care of yourselves and each other, and in times that continue to be just fucking strange. I started Story Hour during early pandemic days with the intention of just providing a place for my writer friends and I to share our work with each other. So my vision of it was a pretty small community of the same people coming back week after week, sharing published work or work in progress and just kind of hanging out. And it just grew way beyond those initial expectations. And it's been great. We've had some just phenomenal writers through these rooms, and we keep doing it, Laura and I, week after week. Yep, the idea here is it's a ancient and time-honored form of entertainment, which is folks sitting around the fire telling lies to each other. So every week we've got two authors and about 30 minutes each doing exactly that. Tonight, we are very happy to have Jenna Hanchey and Valerie Valdes. So it is our custom to ask authors to indicate a worthy cause for us to call your attention to. If you're fortunate enough to be in a position where you can contribute financially, that's great. If not, just listen up, be aware, spread the word if you can, if you're so inclined. So Jenna is reading tonight for DonorC.com. DonorC says it's our mission to build a global support network for the world's poorest. At DonorC, we dream of a world where the global poor receive the help, dignity, and human connection they need to thrive. That's DonorC, SEE.com. Valerie is reading tonight for the Bail Project, bailproject.org. The Bail Project combats mass incarceration by disrupting the money bail system, one person at a time. They restore the presumption of innocence, reunite families, and challenge a system that criminalizes race and poverty. They're on a mission to end cash bail and create a more just, equitable, and humane pretrial system. It's bailproject.org. So we're going to start tonight's program with Jenna. Jenny Hanchey has been an actress, a particle physicist, Peace Corps volunteer, and after-school space program teacher. She is currently a professor of critical cultural studies whose research looks at how speculative fiction can imagine decolonization and bring it into being. Her own writing tries to support this project of creating better futures for us all. Her stories appear in Nature, Futures, Daily Science Fiction, Medusa Tales, Windgraph, and Martian Magazine, among other venues. Having once been called a badass fairy, she attempts to live up to the title. Follow her adventures on Twitter at Jenna Hanchey or at www.jennahanchey.com. Jenna, take it away.
Hi, I'm also just going to throw out something that was in the chat for the Facebook Live audience in case you don't see this. But I am specifically reading for an organization on DonorC, so Every Child Tanzania. So if you look up DonorC.com and then go to Every Child Tanzania, it's led by some people that I know who are doing really great work in their own communities.
Oh, cool. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah. And then I do want to give a content warning that I'm mostly reading stories tonight about grief. So there is some parental death and then just dealing with the aftermath of parental, friend death, and kind of gender violence inspired loss of a place, I guess, in a community. So here we go. I'm starting with, hello, this is Automatic Anti-Grief. What problem can I solve for you today? Hi. Yes, well, it's not a problem exactly. It's just that I don't even know why I do it sometimes. I'll be at home watching creative cooking and trying to design those fancy interactive sims to overlay the protein packs, you know, just like they do on TV. And then before I even realize what's happened, she's there. I mean, I know I granted all the permissions for the app when I downloaded it into my mental implant array, but it's just a little surprising how quickly it works. I don't even register thinking about her until she's already with me. Don't get me wrong, it's great to talk to her. It's like a dream come true having mom around all the time whenever I need her. I'm really glad she changed her mind and we got it set up when we did. Right, a shuttle accident 2 months later. It's okay. No, I love having her here, I think. It all happened so quickly afterwards that I almost didn't realize she was gone. And the sim is perfect. The sensory notes are indistinguishable from reality. When I hug her, I can feel her firm shoulders and soft waist. I can smell the lavender oil that she used in her hair. I can tell the difference between her free and easy laugh and her slightly more sardonic one. I appreciate that she's still giving me her subtle brand of advice from beyond the grave. So no, the problem is not with your character map of her or my implants that register the sensory details. Yes, I realize there's an extra fee to change the input now. That's not what I'm calling about. I don't actually know how to describe the problem, okay? It's like, I want to know the reason I summon Mom's sim before she appears. I have this feeling that I'm missing something when I look up and see her standing by the window, watching the birds like she used to, or sitting in her favorite easy chair reading a book. No, yes, I remember that ads are part of the deal. I'm not asking why she has a new release in her hands. I'm trying to figure out exactly what called her there in the first place. Yeah, I get that I must have wanted to see her. Maybe the problem is that I don't feel the wanting. She's always just there, at the tips of my neuralinked fingers, appearing in a synaptic flash, answering the questions I didn't ask about what I should do on my next date, commiserating about that story from work that I haven't even told her yet. And she retells the memories I apparently want to hear in exactly the same manner. I've gotten the explanation of your patented sensorial precision system before. It's great that the sim has 100% factual accuracy. That's really cool. What I'm saying is it doesn't sound like her. She was never 100% factually accurate. And that's actually good because it breaks the illusion that it is her long enough for me to remember that she's dead and gone and this image of her isn't real. That's it, I guess. Those are the moments when I get closest to what I'm looking for. The moments when the pit of my stomach drops and I get this swooshing feeling like a black hole has opened in my soul and threatens to pull all that's left of me inside. For one glorious instant, there's a depth to my existence. My whole being is caught between the elation of unfulfilled longing and a horror of having gotten exactly what I wished for. But just like that, it's gone again. You see, most of the time, I don't feel anything at all. I would perhaps, but she's already with me, easing the anxieties and pain and grief that conjured her before I even experienced them. It was just a sigh, sorry. Sure, I guess you could say that the app works too well. Yes, you have my permission to put that comment on your neurosite. But I think what I really mean is I miss what it feels like to miss her. Does that make sense? Sure, I get that it's the whole point of the program. I just don't feel as happy about it as you seem to think I should, as everyone seems to think I should, because I'm not happy. I'm not anything. I just want to feel again. And if you can't help me, maybe I'll just, I don't know, delete the whole thing. Huh. A pause option. I didn't realize you offered that. I see. And it's how much for every paused month? Well, that's something. And she'd always be there, waiting for me. When the pain gets too much, when the feelings start to overwhelm me, I could just turn it back on. It's not that I don't trust your 100% satisfaction rating. No, everything's not all right. Me. What's wrong is me. It's not the sim or your program or your impossibly high satisfaction rate. What I don't trust are my own feelings, my own ideas of what I want and need and what they make me choose to do. There she is. Right on time, I suppose. Sorry, what was that? I got distracted for a moment. No, I think we're done here. Thank you. I'll be okay. Fine, sure, you can put me down as satisfied with your service today. Can you maybe put a pin in all that for now? I'll call back later if I decide to do it. Right now, I need to go talk with my mom. Story number 2, in which I break your heart again. This one's called Break O Time. Break, O waves on the shores of Lake Michigan. Break, O heart, and let the pieces sparkle like scales as they fall to the unknown depths. Break, O time, that she may live again. Break, break, break. I was hauntingly lucky to bear witness as the mermaid of Lake Michigan died. She'd done her best to prepare me for the moment when I'd call my hoarse approximation of her name to no response, but not for the possibility I might be there, to watch powerless as she transformed, reclaimed by the watery depths. Looking back, I can see the beauty of it. It replays in slow motion in my mind, perhaps because I felt frozen at the time, unable to move, unable to breathe, unable to stop what was occurring before me. A body suddenly replaced with a million glinting stars. My gaze would not let go of the water as it flowed into the space where she had just been. But water does not wait for you to let it go. It shifted and churned under my increasingly confused searching until her sparkling remnants were lost to the mysteries of the lake. I could see scales glinting underneath the waves as they sank into the depths, others tossed high in the air and backward, away from the shore. All of them, it seemed, moving further and further away from me. Heavy seconds fell like stones before I allowed myself to realize that the pieces of her could never be reassembled. She would never be put back together again. The mermaid of Lake Michigan was gone, and with her my heart and soul. I could do nothing but watch the waves lap against the gentle curve of the shore. Break, O waves. I didn't know what I was accepting when she gave me her first soul stone. We couldn't speak to one another at the time. Part of me thought she was a hallucination, this iridescent green creature sitting placidly on the unrecognizable shoreline. I crawled up the dune toward her on all fours, exhausted from escaping the riptide that had yanked me from knee-deep water off of Silver Beach, from slowly slogging my way diagonally back to land. Her emerald tail had acted as a beacon, directing me to safety. She smiled, toothless and strange, and leaned down with an open palm. In it glinted a small, round jasper. I reached up to take it, looking from the rock into her depthless black eyes, and held the stone over my heart in thanks. I felt a jolt as the jasper failed to stop at the boundary of my skin, entering and hardening a part of my aorta. For a moment, the blood crashed in my heart like waves upon a shore. Then it stilled. Suddenly lighthearted and lightheaded, I collapsed onto her lap. She ran her hand through my hair, wordlessly reassuring. Some stray hairs caught on her lightly webbed fingers, and she gurgled in surprise or perhaps delight. I nodded assent when she looked at me with a question in her eyes. She placed the loose hairs in her mouth, a gift for a gift. I lay my fingers over my chest, feeling the confident stone, where flimsy flesh had been. Break, O heart. I understood more about soul stones and the connections they wrought by the time I removed my left ventricle and traded it for a piece of her granite, smooth like glass and flecked with gold. By then, she'd grown teeth of quartz and a hair like a halo of bristly seaweed, evidence of my gifts and the bridge they built between her and humanity. Outside, I remained the same, but I could feel the newfound solidity of my soul. A little less human, a little more like her. She'd grabbed my hand more forcefully than usual that day. There will come a time I will not be here when you look for me. Her words crashed upon me, leaving me breathless. She was direct like that. She never opened with context or explanation, names or diminutive. Why? I'd responded, facing her and the conversation head on. She made me feel self-assured. With her, I could face anything. Because my body does not age like yours. It simply is or is not. Right now it is, later not. Now peering ineffectually into the opaque waters upon which the setting sun danced, I wondered what it meant that I was there when it happened. When the lake reached out to reclaim her form, scatter her knowledge through its vast expanse. When it threw part of my soul beyond reach. I understood what had happened objectively. People die, mermaids die, my friend died, and I wasn't ready to lose her. I didn't scream or bargain or beat my hands against the sand. I simply sat, staring at the way the receding waves seemed to draw mountains on the canvas of the shore, and gasped gently at each burst of liquid heat flowing in my suddenly sodden heart. Each rush of blood through my veins felt like a betrayal. I understood what had happened, but I couldn't fathom how I would survive. I threw a stone and watched it sink into the depths. Maybe it could find the rest of my soul down there, the pieces of my heart that I could no longer access without her. Maybe it could burst them open, find what they harbored inside. I wanted to break time itself like one breaks a geode and find that luminous place where I could believe the lies I repeated to myself. She is still a part of me. Lines I repeat them up to myself, sorry. She is still a part of me. And now I am a part of Lake Michigan. The liquid loosening reached my eyes and I finally cried. Break, O time. Break, O waves on the shores of Lake Michigan. Break, O heart, and let the pieces sparkle like scales as they fall to the depths. Break, O time, that I may already have learned how to live again. Break, break, break. And now 2 stories that are still sad, but in which I endeavor to sew your hearts back together again. This one's called Up the River, Over Mountains, Across the Sea. Valerie pauses at the place where the gentle river, running along the stretching toes of the Turridan Mountains, begins its descent into the sea. They delay, entranced by a strange thicket that tugs at the boundaries of their perception, until the sun lies low in the sky and the day holds no more potential for travel. They sigh, relieved to have procured a little more time, however oddly. One more night to reflect on the decisions that have brought them this far, to remind themselves of the things they carry, and to insist that others' regret need not be one of them. But soon, too soon, dawn will come, and with it the necessity of a choice. Up the river, over mountains, or across the sea. Behind are the remnants of a life. It was satisfying in the way satisfaction emerges from solving a difficult puzzle. The hiding, shifting, and changing at the behest of circumstance and setting worked for a while until some noticed. They put the pieces of Valerie together, and they did not like the picture it drew. Then came torches, and Valerie ran toward the river, bordering mountains by the sea. Up the river is the man. He is loving in his way, if love exists in the stick as well as the carrot. When love is equated with protection, God's helped the child he cannot surmise how to protect. Even a child can taste when the air is laden with disappointment. Oh, the ways love is twisted by misgiving. The ways young Valerie twisted under his disciplining belt. Over mountains is the woman. She is comforting in her way, to the extent that comfort can be found amidst a process of becoming. She adored the Valerie of boots and sweat and swords, watching without understanding the softening, loosening, relaxing. Who would adore the Valerie of braids and lavender and silks? As one tension dissipated, another began. The harsh words that pinioned a soul searching for release. Across the sea is unfathomable. They say the gods of earth and sky, when separated from one another, cried the seas into existence. Such a manifestation of grief can only bring grief, the old women intone, stirring pots upon stoves. We are children of Mother Earth and Father Sky, the old men agree, not meant for the watery depths. Valerie heard such talk as a child up the river, a lover over mountains, and in a variety of forms in a town left behind. The pressures of earth and sky foisted on a child of neither. Valerie sits in a place where the trees tower above, filtering the light into flecks that adorn the ground like ephemeral jewels. They gather their knees into their chest, protecting themselves from the gathering dark. The soft cadence of the river is punctuated by crashes of sea meeting shore. From here, they can glimpse the soaring mountains above, feel the force of the river behind, and bask in the stretching waters before them. They long for this moment to last forever, where they can be everything and nothing at once. For a while, they ignore the choice that increasingly looms large, expanding to block out the sun. Up the river, over mountains, or across the sea. As Valerie lingers, the sky deepens and the water shimmers in the fading light. And it is there, at the edge of day and night, that they glimpse the fairy. At first, the creature is a flash of green light in the corner of their eye, flitting into and out of view. Valerie turns slowly, afraid that any movement might cause the fey being to flee, but their concern is unwarranted. They face the fairy to find that the creature awaits them. It stands jauntily on a branch, gaze piercing them like an arrow. One of its bare legs is crossed lightly over the other, and it leans comfortably on the bristly trunk, one hand pressed flat against the bark. Valerie draws a long breath at the beauty of its lacy wings. There is an energy in the air, as if the grove is sparkling just beyond the edge of mortal perception. The fairy does not speak, and neither does Valerie. Valerie simply waits, or at least it feels like waiting at first. After an unmeasurable time, Valerie realizes they are no longer waiting. They are absorbing, existing, reveling. They are. The world reorients. Everything that once seemed opposing begins to align: man and woman, earth and sky, river, mountains, and sea. The sparkling of the feyland overlaps with the mortal wood, and Valerie for a moment senses the whole. The fairy smiles slightly before shifting its position so that it is fully embraced by the dancing light. Slowly, the fairy and its glittering realm fade back beyond Valerie's perception, leaving only the last grasping ray of the sun on the grove's whispering leaves. Valerie watches the spot where the fairy stood for a few more moments, though they know it will not return. Their gaze eventually wanders back to the ever-shifting waters of the sea. Taking in the constant motion of the waves, the path of the moon, which encompasses both light and dark, They long for such ease of movement, a path that traverses the whole. Valerie knows what they must do. Truth be told, they always knew. Up the river, over mountains, across the sea, Valerie laughs, shaking off the constraints they were never quite able to bear. There, at the edge of the world, Valerie makes their last decision, to refuse the terms of the choice. Valerie instead resolves to build something anew, possibility that they were not given, but others would be. Beginning alone will be difficult, they think, but they are comforted by the certainty that they will not be alone for long. Others will come, seeking what Valerie will build. A home at the edge of the Turretin Mountains, where the river is embraced by the sorrowing sea. And a final shorter one that's called Sing Back the Stars. It was prophesied that the world's end would be hearkened by star song. Jessie wondered what it would be like, hearing the great balls of fire burst into heavenly music. Would it sound like her dad's opera? Would it be beautiful and sad as they watched the demise of Earth? Or perhaps angry and mean, taking joy as the world burned? Would she even get to hear it before death claimed her? She shivered, curling tighter under the blanket on the couch as her dad cooked dinner and danced around the kitchen to the magic flute. His silly movements eventually overcame her fear, and she laughed despite herself. Why are you always singing and dancing, Dad? It keeps the joy alive, sweetheart. And it's our joy that holds back the star song. As long as we sing, they don't have to. He twirled over toward the couch, extending a hand in invitation. Your papa loved it when we sang and danced, remember? Jessie took his hand. She did remember. A year is a long time for a 10-year-old to live without her second parent, but they'd had 9 wonderful years together first. A dull ache filled her heart, mixing and mingling with the delight that she got from dancing with her dad, until the two couldn't be separated. Pulling out of his embrace, she crossed her arms. Sometimes it's hard to be joyful, Dad. His face softened, and he placed a hand lovingly on her tense shoulder. I know, Jessie. I know it's hard. But sometimes the most beautiful songs are the ones we sing through the pain. She hugged him tightly, neither giving a thought to their burning dinner. As the days grew colder and the stars grew brighter, Jessie could almost feel the joy draining out of the world. Dad still sang and twirled her around the kitchen, but their home had begun to feel like the last bastion of light on Earth. Bit by bit, person by person, the world stopped singing. Silence settled with the finality of death. Jessie felt it happen in the dark of the night, the moment when the stars paused to gather a deep breath before they would start to sing. Her heart fluttered with that indescribable feeling, that intense mixture of joy and pain, and she knew what she had to do. Snatching her scooter from the garage, she tremulously kicked off. Nulla impresa per si tenta Ivano, she began, voice strengthening as lights flicked on in the houses she rode by. A street and a half later, she was belting at the top of her lungs. Ah, hi vista troppo dolce e troppo amara. She felt the sweetness and bitterness both. Holding an image of her dad and Papa in her mind, Jessie sang through the pain. And oh, how she sang. The little girl on a scooter flew through the neighborhood, lighting up houses and hearts with her tiny yet mighty voice. Even the stars held their breath, listening.
Well, thank you so much, Jennifer, for different and all equally lovely stories. Really nice work. Thank you so much. It's our custom here at Story Hour to just chill for a brief moment between authors to kind of let the previous work sort of ring, do whatever it's going to do in your soul before we move on to the next thing. So we're going to do that. And kind of stare at the screen for a few long seconds. All right. Valerie Valdes' short fiction and poetry have been featured in Uncanny Magazine, Time Travel Short Stories, and Nightmare Magazine. Her debut novel, Chilling Effect, was shortlisted for the 2021 Arthur C. Clarke Award and was named one of Library Journal's best SF fantasy novels of 2019. The sequel, Prime Deceptions, was published in 2020, and the third book in the trilogy, Fault Tolerance, is forthcoming in May 2022, which already happened. So maybe, I guess it's out. Valerie lives in Georgia with her husband, children, and cats. Take it away, Valerie.
Hello, friends. Tonight I am going to be reading my story From Bridge to Elsewhere, which is an excellent anthology that is available now if you feel like reading more cool stories by other people. My story is called Team Building Exercise. And if you're like me, you hate team building exercises, so hopefully this will be a fun one for you. The newly assembled crew of the CS Fedora sat in plastic folding chairs, arranged in a circle around the blonde ponytailed corporate trainer, who currently regarded them with the slightly demented smile of a professional cheer radiator. Her expression and business casual jumpsuit did nothing to diminish the cold, impersonal feel of the space station meeting room, with its bright fluorescent lights and painfully white walls covered in regulation posters explaining employee rights and minimum wage laws. A digital sign scrolled, "Welcome to Labosa Corp," with 3 exclamation points, above a small table that held snacks, drinks, and disposables. The free coffee was lukewarm, the free muffins were dry, and the rest of the day promised to be equally unpleasant. "So," Bianca DeWitt said, her tone unnaturally chipper, her blue eyes wide in her pale face. "Now that you've all been formally introduced to each other, our first team building exercise is going to be an exciting game." She paused as if waiting for a reaction, but only silence replied. "It's a kind of role-playing game," she continued, tapping her datapad. "You're each going to be given a card, and your card will tell you whether you're a human or an evil robot. The goal of the game is to guess which of your crewmates is the robot. Every round, you all get to discuss it and vote. If you vote for someone who's a human, you keep going. If you manage to vote for the robot, you win. If the robot is one of the last 2 players left, they win. Does anyone have questions?" Captain D. Franklin uncrossed their tanned muscular arms and half raised their hand. "I'm sorry, Mrs. DeWitt?" "Bianca, please," Bianca said. "Isn't it a little insensitive to play an evil robots game when one of our crew is literally a robot?" Captain Franklin gestured at Santi, who sat 2 chairs down from them. As an iota model of a synthetic astronavigation technician, he was almost indistinguishable from a human, except for his lavender skin, violet eyes, and impeccable posture. "Thank you for speaking up on my behalf, Captain," Santi said. "While I'm not programmed to be offended by anything, the situation is objectively problematic." Bianca's red lipsticked mouth made a moo, sorry. "That is excellent feedback, Captain Franklin. Let me send a quick note to our developers to consider using an alternate designation for that." She quickly scribbled something on her datapad's surface. "How about vampires?" volunteered Amika Tate, the ship's chief engineer. "They're not real." "Oh, the cards are already printed, though," Bianca said, scrunching her face into a veneer of concern. Ankur Agrawal, the pilot, raised a dark brown hand over his head. "We could just, if we all agree it's vampires instead of robots, then it doesn't matter, right? What's on the card, whoever gets the robot card is just a vampire instead." He looked to Captain Franklin for support, and they nodded. I want to be a vampire hunter, said Dexter Lawrence. The steward sprang to his feet and made a downward stabbing motion toward Grace Naminga, the junior engineer. She leaned away, then scooted her chair closer to Amika's. The role assignments are random, Bianca said quickly. You're either a human or a vampire. Captain Franklin cleared their throat politely, one dark eyebrow lifted. I want to be clear on this before we start. We all just met. We're about to go on a month-long trip together, and you're having us do a team-building exercise where the entire point is to lie to each other. What does that accomplish? All eyes shifted to Bianca's pale face. Well, Bianca said, fidgeting with the datapad, it's more of an icebreaker. The goal is to have you learn each other's communication styles, including body language and individual vocal quirks and facial cues, and to have fun. Her tone rose in the last statement, turning it into a question, though she didn't quite sound as if she was eager for an answer. That seems illogical, Santi said, blinking his violet eyes twice in rapid succession. Rather than becoming familiar with each other's baseline personalities and approaches to conflict resolution, we will instead be learning the methods by which each person erects a facade to maximize the effectiveness of their deception or convince others of their honesty. We are also effectively being pitted against each other rather than working together. And lying is wrong? Grace said, eyeing Dexter, who made a whooshing noise and mimed stabbing Santi in the heart. Bianca reapplied her smile, eyes crinkling. I'm happy to pass any feedback along to my superiors, but this is a mandatory exercise, so we need to complete it before we can move on to the next one. We have to finish the full module to be approved for departure. Captain Franklin ran a hand through their short brown hair and leaned back in their folding chair, which creaked under their weight. Why don't you give us the cards, then? Without another word, Bianca distributed the roll cards. Each crew member read the single word printed on their laminated square, then looked around at their colleagues with a mixture of curiosity, suspicion, and careful neutrality. Except Dexter, who covered his mouth with one hand and then slid the card into his shirt pocket. Okay, Bianca said, the game starts now. Go ahead and talk amongst yourselves and let me know when you're ready to vote. She edged out of the circle and walked toward the table holding the scant refreshments. Captain Franklin took a deep breath and leaned forward, lowering their voice. All those in favor of finishing this quickly? A chorus of ayes and nods answered, except Dexter, who frowned. I'm human, Captain Franklin said. Raise your hand if you're the vampire. No one raised their hand. Captain Franklin scrutinized each of them in turn, finally settling on Dexter. Are you the vampire, Dexter? They asked. Just tell us so we can move on. No, Dexter replied, drawing out the vowel and smiling slyly. Ankur stifled a laugh, and Grace shook her head in disbelief, her long black braid bobbing up and down her back. I don't know about you all, Amika said, but I have my vote. Captain Franklin turned around in their chair and waved at Bianca. We finished our discussion. Bianca froze, cup halfway to her lips. That was fast, she said. So, who do you think is the vampire? It's Dexter, said everyone, more or less simultaneously. What? Dexter exclaimed, again lengthening the word, hand flying to his chest in shock. Well, I think it's Santi. I am not a vampire, Santi replied. I am, however, a robot. Well, Bianca said, let's see your card, Dexter. Dexter reluctantly retrieved the card from his shirt, keeping it hidden against his chest. He looked away as he turned it around, revealing the word robot, printed in large block letters. Looks like you got staked, bud, Omika said. Bianca walked around the circle, collecting the rest of the cards. Why don't we take a quick break before our next exercise, she asked, mask of cheer once again firmly in place. How does 15 minutes sound? The expressions that replied were less than enthusiastic, but everyone got up to stretch or grab a drink or use the facilities. Omika ambled up to Captain Franklin as they stood in front of a poster explaining how to report workplace accidents. Do we seriously have to sit through this all day? She asked quietly. Yes, replied Captain Franklin, but nobody could make us enjoy it. Omika chuckled, and Captain Franklin smiled. Together, they headed for the stale snacks and caffeine. Bianca pursed her red lips and made a notation on her datapad. All clear here, Omika said, looking around at the empty crew quarters of the derelict freighter one last time. The bunks showed no signs of being slept in, and there was no indication of illness or a struggle. Copy, Captain Franklin said from the bridge, which was equally abandoned. The console lit their face from below, with an array of blinking red warnings. Black box has been located. No survivors in the cargo bay? Negative, Grace replied. No one in the engine room either. Lawrence, report, Captain Franklin said. Nobody in the mess, Dexter said, grabbing a protein bar from the cabinet and peeling it open. Captain Franklin ticked a final mark on the list on their datapad. That's it then. Back to our ship and we'll upload the box contents to Starsec. They reconvened at the umbilicus, connecting the Fedoa to the Nemo, going through the mandatory decontamination procedures one at a time. Omika rolled her eyes at Dexter as he crammed the rest of the food in his mouth. Seriously? She asked. Dexter shrugged and tossed the wrapper aside. Not like it matters, right? Once everyone was back on board and ready to depart, Encore disengaged, and they floated away. Santi programmed their recalculated flight path into the system, and with a crotch-roiling dive, they plunged into warp space. All systems green. Wait, Encore said. I'm getting some bad notifications from life support. Something's up with the water reclamation system, and possibly our food storage. Captain Franklin sighed, drumming their fingers on the seat of the bridge. And here I thought we were done. Okay, Omika, you and Grace check things out and get me an update on necessary steps. Sure, Captain, Omika replied, unstrapping herself. Grace followed suit. Captain? Encore asked. I'm seeing something else on sensors, an unidentified life form in the cargo bay. Are they a vampire? Omika asked, rolling her eyes. Encore laughed, and even Captain Franklin cracked a smile briefly. Human? Captain Franklin asked. Looks like it. Wait, if we have an extra person on board and our water and food are having problems? Captain Franklin groaned and put a hand over their face. Bianca, please pause the simulation. The environment around them remained solid, but the ship suddenly seemed to hang motionless in space. All the readouts and sensors froze. All alarms fell silent. Everything okay, Captain? Bianca asked, her voice slightly tinny over comms. Are we seriously doing this? Captain Franklin asked. When our contract with Mimosa said we had to undergo these exercises, I expected something more practical and less Kobayashi Maru. Bianca cleared her throat. We think it's great for generating really thoughtful discussion and seeing how you can all work together to deal with a tough situation. Encore tapped one foot nervously, while Santi continued to sit stiffly, now facing Captain Franklin. Omika hissed out air between her teeth. Grace's shoulders slumped, and Dexter leaned forward and steepled his fingers. A classic trolley problem, Santi said. Will we choose to sacrifice one among us to survive, or doom the entire crew? Captain Franklin squeezed their eyes shut. Can we please not do this? Do you have more feedback for the developers, Captain? Bianca asked. No, Captain Franklin said, but off the record, this no-win dilemma nonsense is philosophical masturbation. Agreed, Grace said quietly. Encore nodded as well. Very aptly put, Santi said. Come on, Dexter said. It's just a thought exercise. It's not hurting anyone. It is giving me a headache, Omika murmured. Grace rested a hand on Omika's arm. I have ibuprofen in my bag, she whispered. I'll give you some when we get out of the simulation. Sorry to nudge you along here, Bianca said, but you do need to get through this to finish the module. I'm just going to unpause and let y'all do your thing. When you come to a solution, let me know. With that, the ship sparked to life again. I guess we need to come up with something, Captain Franklin said, opening their eyes and surveying their crew. I have my own thoughts, but I'd like to hear your suggestions. Do you want real solutions that might actually work? Grace asked. Captain Franklin snorted and shook their head. I'm betting they won't, even if we try them. The point here is to make us deal with being backed into an ethical corner. That's horrible, Encore said, his voice cracking. This is gross. There's no right answer. Sometimes there are no right answers in life. Blah, blah, murder's inevitable, Omika said, rolling her eyes. Grace sighed. Why are some people so obsessed with forcing others to kill? Perhaps it makes them feel less guilty about their own unsatisfied proclivities for violence, Santi offered. Encore made a face like he smelled something spoiled. I know we're in VR already, but this really is like a video game, he said, where you only get a couple of options and no matter what, you end up having to shoot your way out. I hate those games. Dexter made a gun with his fingers and aimed it at each person in turn. You know what I would do? What, Lawrence? Captain Franklin asked warily. I'd space you all in vamoose, get to safety, and then say you went crazy and tried to murder me. Dexter made pew-pew sounds with his mouth as he pretended to shoot Encore. You don't know how to fly a ship, Grace said. Dexter shrugged. Can't be that hard. Encore laughed incredulously, starting and stopping in waves as if trying and failing to contain himself. Reel it in, people, Captain Franklin said, spinning their finger in a circle. Okay, standard answers include spacing the stowaway, spacing another crew member, or controlled cannibalism. We can opt to pretend the stowaway was never found, or say the crew member volunteered. Anyone want to offer themselves up for that one? I would do so, but I do not consume resources, Santi said, his violet eyes blinking slightly too slowly. Also, in the event of a necessary subterfuge, my memories would require alteration due to my inability to prevaricate. We could just space Dexter, Anker said. Dexter gasped in outrage. What? Seriously? You just told us you'd kill us all and steal the ship, Anker replied. Yeah, Mika said, but do you really want to kill him about it? Anker fell silent and finally shook it and looked down at his sneakers. This is ridiculous, he muttered. It's not even a realistic scenario. We might as well do something fun, like, I don't know, build a space trampoline. Grace perked up. Oh, that would be difficult to accomplish given the lack of gravity and vacuum. But not impossible, Amika said, pursing her lips in thought. It would have to be a small one. We don't have any fabric panels in inventory. A net-like series of overlapping straps, maybe? Grace asked. And an anchor to keep the jumper from floating away, Amika said. It could work. The crew spent the next hour concocting a series of increasingly absurd but fun ways to pass the time if murder or death was imminent. Dexter tried to contribute a few ideas, but after suggesting an especially ugly iteration of Spin the Bottle, he was exiled to the virtual cargo bay for a timeout. When Bianca walked in, they were all sitting around the table in the mess. And then I said, don't worry, the webbing will dissolve within 48 hours. It's not like you needed that data pad for homework, right? Omika grinned and everyone laughed, except Dexter, who curled his upper lip in a sneer. Bianca coughed politely and beamed at them all. The friendly mood evaporated, leaving only a faint residue that was quickly overpowered by a collective veneer of sullen obligation. So, Bianca said, her break clearly having restored her chipperness reserves. Captain Franklin, could you walk me through what you came up with as a solution to the problem? Of course, Captain Franklin said smoothly. After a spirited deliberation and a lot of careful soul-searching, we decided that the fairest thing to do would be to draw straws and let the loser choose how they wanted to die. Everyone nodded seriously, though Ankur appeared to be desperately trying to keep a smile off his face, and even Grace had a merry twinkle in her nearly black eyes. Bianca made a notation on her datapad. That's very equitable of you, she said. I know this was a difficult exercise, and I'm glad you were all able to come together and reach a consensus. Captain Franklin shrugged their broad shoulders, their expression inscrutable. Bianca's smile broadened. Well, the good news is it's time for lunch. This station has an excellent cafeteria with a variety of options. I'll shut down the simulation, then take you over. The mention of food perked everyone up, even if the prospects were likely to be as mediocre as the morning's fare. With a few commands to her datapad, Bianca stopped the VR session, the spaceship slowly dissolving into a bare white room with silver studs at intervals along the walls, ceiling, and floor. She opened the door and gestured for everyone to exit, waiting for the room to clear before she shut off the lights and locked up behind her. If she caught the stifled laughs and sly glances cast in her direction, she ignored them, maintaining her red-lipped smile as she guided the crew toward their next destination. The final exercise was held in the facility's anti-grav chamber, a massive room at the center of the station, painted entirely in black, as if emulating space without the benefit of stars. Various handholds and tethers were arranged along the walls, ceiling, and floor, with a row of seats people could strap themselves into. Storage cabinets flanked the entrance, their doors secured so the contents wouldn't float away in the event of an accidental application of Newton's first law. The crew climbed inside and slid their respective arms through nearby restraints. Once settled, they turned their attention to Bianca, who had taken one of the seats, her blonde ponytail now wrapped into a prim bun. Let's begin, Bianca announced, moving her finger along the datapad surface. One of the cabinets opened and a few dozen drones floated out. They drifted into the center of the chamber, then arranged themselves into an odd grid pattern. Some were close together, others had gaps between them. Each cast a dim glow around them in about a meter radius, leaving some areas darker than others, like a maze of shadow and light. At the far end of the room, a holographic green flag appeared, waving in a non-existent breeze. What are we looking at here? Captain Franklin asked, hands on their hips. This is a trust challenge, Bianca explained. From a box underneath her seat, she pulled out a pair of handheld propulsion units and a length of fabric, which the captain examined with a raised eyebrow. My trust is definitely challenged, Omika muttered to Ankur, who snickered. If Bianca heard the comment, she didn't react. Each of you will wear that blindfold one at a time, she said. You'll start there. She pointed at a spot along the wall, level with the place where no drones hovered. The rest of the crew will verbally guide you through the maze of drones until you reach the other side. If a drone is activated before the flag is reached, that crew member is out, and the next person takes their place. You keep going until as many crew members as possible are safely on the other side. What happens if one of us floats into a space with a drone? Captain Franklin asked. Bianca gave a theatrical wince. You'll be hit with a small red paintball. Non-toxic, of course, and it should wash out easily. It does smell unpleasant, I'm sorry to say, like microwave fish. Dexter laughed evilly and rubbed his hands together. Oh, this is gonna be fun. Who makes paint that smells like fish? Encore asked, eyeing Dexter warily. I can search for that information if you genuinely wish to know, Santi asked. Encore shook his head in reply. I just want to know why we're doing this, Omega said. This thing specifically, I mean. Are there seriously no team building exercises that don't involve doing something gross, literally or figuratively? Before Bianca could answer, Captain Franklin held up a hand, and the crew fell silent. This is our last activity for the day, they said. Once it's finished, we can head to the ship and start prepping for our trip. Right, Bianca? That's correct, Captain, Bianca replied primly, her datapad balanced on her forearm. Then let's do this, Captain Franklin said. I'll go first. They eased out of their restraints and climbed over to Bianca, who handed them the blindfold and propulsion units. The captain unfolded the blindfold fully, testing its strength and elasticity. Squinting at the array of drones, they climbed over to Grace and held a whispered conference with her, while the others watched with varying degrees of nervousness or annoyance. Captain Franklin pulled Omika in next, then Ankur, and finally Santi, all of them sharing a single handhold on the wall. The captain pointed at the drones at different points on the field, and Grace and Ankur drew lines in the air with their hands, while Santi offered input. Dexter tried to eavesdrop, but Captain Franklin glared at him until he floated away, hands raised in a submissive gesture. The huddle eventually broke up, and Captain Franklin crooked a finger at Dexter. Give me your shoe, Lawrence, they said. My what? Dexter asked, confusion wrinkling his nose. Your shoe, Captain Franklin repeated patiently, their brown eyes unblinking. Which one? Captain Franklin shrugged. Doesn't matter. Dexter lifted his other leg, pulling his black loafer off and sending it drifting toward the captain. Captain Franklin caught the shoe and handed it to Grace, who hefted it experimentally. She shrugged with a single shoulder. Smaller might be better, Grace said. It might, Captain Franklin said. I think we need the mask, though. If this doesn't work, we'll try the mustard. What? Dexter asked, puzzled. I still think my eye would serve the purpose, Santi said, but I understand the damage concerns. Your what? Dexter asked. Bianca merely watched. Eyebrows vanished into her wispy bangs. Grace hooked a foot through one of the straps and leaned away from the wall. She took a stance like a baseball player, cocked her arm back, and threw Dexter's shoe at the drones. Oh! Bianca exclaimed. Hey! Dexter yelled at the same time. The shoe rocketed toward one of the drones in the second row. It struck the hovering machine squarely, knocking it into the drone in another square. A series of ricochets occurred then, and every drone that was bumped released a tiny projectile. Some of the paintballs hit other drones, while some missed. Their motion was apparently enough to trigger the other drones' sensors, and those units also fired. Red paint splattered against the walls and ceiling and floor, but by luck or careful planning, none of it hit the crew members. Encore whooped and high-fived Grace. Omika patted her shoulder, and Captain Franklin gave her a gleeful thumbs up that made her blush. A very well-executed throw, Santi said. One more will maintain an adequate trajectory for the drones to leave us a clear path. This isn't, Bianca spluttered. You can't. Wisps of hair escaped her blonde ponytail as she clutched her datapad to her chest. Captain Franklin crossed their arms over their broad chest. It's already done, they said. Are we prohibited from attempting the same maneuver again? Bianca's mouth opened and closed. Her blue eyes darted back and forth between the drifting drones, the captain, and the crew. Lawrence, Captain Franklin said, still staring at Bianca. Give me your other shoe. No way, Dexter said. Use someone else's shoe. He looked down at his feet, one now wearing only a sock. Captain Franklin held their empty hand out, palm up, and shifted their gaze to Dexter. Are you part of this crew or not? They asked. It's your choice. You spent all day acting like a goon. Now is your chance to contribute. We finish this, and we all get out of here, together. Dexter met the captain's eyes with a scowl, his brow furrowed. Gradually, his expression shifted, jaw relaxing, forehead lines smoothing out. He glanced at the rest of the crew, then at Bianca, then back at the captain. Come on, man, Ankor said. Do it, Dexter, Amika said. Please, Grace added. Santi merely watched, blinking his calm violet eyes. Fine, Dexter said and pulled off his other shoe. He handed it to Captain Franklin, then hovered there in his socks, nervously wiggling his toes. The rest of the crew cheered, and Captain Franklin passed the shoe to Grace. She took up the same stance as before, then launched the second shoe toward an unmoving drone. It careened into the drone next to it, causing a chain reaction that shifted more of them out of the way and sent paintballs flying. Once the wild motions of the machines had settled into a slow drift, what was left on the field was a straight path to the flag if they timed it properly. The air recirculators kicked in suddenly, wafting the scent of fish toward them. Captain Franklin stood at the edge of the marked squares and tied on the blindfold, then held a propulsion unit in each hand. Everyone ready? They asked. In answer, Amika grabbed their wrist and closed her eyes. Grace took her hand and did the same. Ankor held Grace's hand and Santi's, who turned and reached out for Dexter. Are you coming? Santi asked. Dexter hesitated, then took the android's hand gently, his expression inscrutable. With a shaky breath, he closed his eyes. Captain Franklin activated the propulsion units, making sure to aim them so the gas inside wouldn't hit Amika. Drones spun and floated around the crew as they flew straight across the field toward the green flag awaiting them at the other end. The newly graduated crew assembled in the hallway outside the meeting room, already discussing their plans for reconvening on the ship and starting the final preparations for their long journey to Triton. Omika cracked a joke that made Ankor burst into stuttering laughter, which trailed off as they walked away toward the cafeteria for what Captain Franklin called a mandatory 3:05 coffee break, caffeine optional. Dexter peeled off from the group with a wave and ducked into a restroom. A few minutes later, he emerged and scanned the hallway, then returned to the meeting room. Bianca sat in one of the folding chairs, eyes glued to her datapad, on which she was furiously scribbling notes. That went well, I thought, Dexter said, taking a seat across from her. It did, Bianca replied, not looking up. Priscilla is checking the drones for damage, but so far she hasn't found anything. Good deal, Dexter chuckled quietly. Thanks for the spare shoes. Oh, yes, of course, Bianca said absently. I wasn't going to make you suffer through the fish smell all afternoon, not after your heroic sacrifice. They fell silent for a few minutes as Bianca continued to write. Finally, she stopped and looked up, her shoulders dropping as if she'd released a load of tension all at once. Dexter smiled at her, warm and genuine, unlike the cocky grins he'd plastered on earlier. It's incredible how different every group is, Bianca said. You think you know what to expect, but they always throw you a curveball. Or a shoe, Dexter said. Or a shoe, Bianca agreed. I think we might retire that activity. Not the trolley problem, Dexter asked. Everyone hates that one. Bianca rubbed her eyes with one hand. It tends to work well, though. It either reinforces the cohesion from the first activity or helps us see where future issues will arise. She lifted her datapad again. That reminds me, I need to let the captain know we're swapping you out. Who's taking over as steward? Dexter asked. Ramon Suarez. He's been on standby for a week, and Captain Franklin worked with him at Denias X, so he should integrate quickly. Dexter slapped his knees and stood up. Guess I'll head to my hab unit then. Nice to get out early for a change. Bianca smirked up at him. Tired of playing the villain, Dexter Lawrence? You know, Dexter said, I kind of am, but it pays the bills. We all have our roles, Bianca said more gently. She looked down at her datapad, then swiped it off. Come on, she said, let's get a coffee. Dexter laughed incredulously. From the cafeteria? No, a real coffee, Bianca said. The kind that's all flavored syrup and whipped cream. My treat. You're on, B. Just don't call me Dexter in public. The pair left the meeting room behind, its Welcome to Lamosa Corp sign flickering off with the rest of the lights. They ambled down the hallway, reliving the day, relaxing as they shed their respective false personalities like company uniforms. We do make a good team, Bianca said, stepping into the elevator. The best, Dexter said, and they shared a fist bump as the doors closed in front of them. Sorry, my camera apparently went whack. Whoa.
Right. Well, thank you so much. That was really fun. For the non-writers out there, writing humor is difficult. There's a convergence of voice and cadence and story and character that needs to kind of converge like a little clockwork puzzle. And Valerie just makes it look easy and effortless. So,
And there's not just humor there. It's not just jokes.
right. Absolutely.
There's
Yeah, a lot of heart.
substance
A lot of
too,
heart.
which is even harder.
So I want to thank both of our authors for a really fine evening tonight. Valerie Valdes and Jenna Hanchey, really lovely work, both of you. Thank you for joining us at Story Hour. And thank you all out there for joining us again, for coming back week after week and sharing the fictive dream with us. Next week, we have Kel Coleman and Gabriela Santiago. So please come on back, join us again. Meanwhile, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll see you next time. I want to thank my co-host, Laura Blackwell, as always. Good night, everybody.